Good morning. Good morning. We got a pretty exciting week this week. Work officially kicks off for this new Entrepreneurial Residency that I just started. I'm going to hold off on saying the name of the company just yet until I talk to them and see if they're cool with me sharing, and hopefully they are. I think it's a win-win, so hopefully they're cool, and then I'll be able to bring the camera in and show you guys a little bit about what I'm building, where I'm building, why I decided to choose an EIR program, why I decided to choose this partner in specific. But that's all happening this week, and so we're kicking things off today, but hopefully after I talk to them, I'll be able to show you a bit more besides tell you. Otherwise, I'll just have you guys all here in my home office, and then we'll be able to chop up sort of what's happening on a day-to-day basis here. Next, I'm super excited about this. I have a radio show tomorrow, 2 to 3 local time here in Berlin, at Refuge Worldwide. It's this internet radio station that graciously gave me an hour to spin, and I'm super excited about the show. Music's been a huge part of my life. Up until I was about 25, 26, I thought I was going to be working in music for sure. I had a radio show in high school. I would DJ a ton, unofficially at all of our parties in high school and college. And I played the sax, learned keyboard, recorded an album, a mixtape. I used to rap with some friends. And so it's nice to get back into a hobby where I lose time, like preparing the set, choosing songs for the set that fit the theme, all these sorts of things are second nature for me, and I'm super excited to share and play a little bit tomorrow. Also, we got some really good feedback in the form of coverage for an hour-long script that I wrote for a TV show. It's a TV show for premium streaming channels that's an hour-long drama, but also a psychological thriller. And I don't want to be too cryptic, but I also can't share much more just yet, just because there are conversations happening about development and don't want to disrespect those conversations at all. But got some incredible coverage back, and for those folks that coverage is essentially like a report, you send any script really, like a script play, a feature film, or in my case TV show, you send it to a professional reader. So there are these folks in entertainment, typically in Hollywood, and their job is to read scripts and evaluate them based off a bunch of criteria, like the strengths, the weaknesses, the characters, the plot, the premise, the marketability, and then they end the coverage with a official sort of recommendation. And the recommendations are threefold. The final recommendation is either a pass, a consider, or a recommend. Recommend is obviously, like it sounds, the highest rating that you can get, and this signals that the script is like damn near finished, and there's a clear sort of path that an executive can see to getting this developed and filmed and on TV. Consider is like the notch below that, which is the script is well on its way. There are some interesting components here. It needs some work, and that can be in various forms. Like it needs to maybe have some things changed to increase the marketability. Maybe we should think about attaching an A-list actor to really get the studios excited about this, these sorts of things. Or it may just need, like, you know, some of the writing needs to be adjusted, like the plot's off or the premise could be dialed up, these sorts of things. And then a pass is obviously what it says on the tin. It's like, I mean, there'll be like feedback attached to it, like, you know, this needs work in these areas, and for now it's a pass. But we got some really strong coverage back, some amazing quotes in the coverage report. And so I have a manager and an attorney, an entertainment attorney that I'm working with, so I just need to get this to them so that we can start to circulate this amongst the producers and production companies that we've been talking to, and hopefully we can move something forward and start to develop the script, which would be crazy. And Lastly, on the running side, this is week 3 of training. Training was pretty tough last week. Like 2 weeks ago, did the 33 miles, and then last week did 49, which was a bit big of a jump for me this early, just because I took a 2-month break, and my body's feeling it for sure. But I'm gonna try to get back at it. We're definitely gonna get back at it this week, but I have to figure out, like, don't want to overtrain and run the risk of injury. I'm getting a little older, and so in the back of my mind is always this maybe not little voice, but this sort of like spidey sense of like being really in tune with my body, so I'm not getting close to any injuries. And even when I'm out running, I run really hard when I need to, but I'm also really quite cautious because, yeah, this is something that I love and want to continue to do for a really long time. But yeah, want to tap in while I'm out here on my balcony, just have my morning coffee. And I'll talk to you soon. So this was the rest of Monday. I did a great easy run, and then the rest of the day I spent researching. Big day today. Going to go DJ down at Refuge Worldwide. And even before that, good morning. It's proper summer here in Berlin. It's like already, it's 10 in the morning and it feels like 65, 70 degrees. But shit, it's already June, which is crazy. Anyway, woke up with some good news. I've been trying to get a visa here, and I submitted my application back early December, but finally woke up this morning and the department I've been communicating with just asked me to email them a bunch of stuff so I can get my visa, or at least book my appointment, because you have to go in person and they have to check your height and make sure you're you. But yeah, I've been waiting since December, and it's crazy because if you're an American, you can stay in the EU on a travel visa for 90 days. 90 days out of a 180-day period, right? But, at least in Germany, after you apply for, in my case, at first it was residency, but after you apply for residency, the country allows you to stay in the country until they make a decision, which that makes sense, it's obvious. But it becomes an issue if the office in Germany, in my case, or in any case in this example, doesn't get back to you in less than 90 days. Because what that means is then you can't really travel anywhere legally. So some countries are pretty lax on checking your passport. Say if you're like just going to a neighboring country for like a day trip or something. Some countries are pretty lax, but some countries are quite strict. And I'm not going to name names because I actually haven't tested this out. It's all been hearsay. But it could potentially become an issue because you could be sort of locked into the country that you're trying to get residency or a visa in and not be able to travel for leisure or work, anything really. So that's been a bit of a bummer because I had to cancel a marathon that was going to be in Barcelona. I was injured, but also I was like really nervous about flying there because I wasn't sure if they would let me in the country, and I wasn't going to go all the way there if they decided to be strict that day. But anyway, it feels good that like now I have to send these documents over within 2 weeks, and hopefully I'll have my appointment and can finally get residency, and then start working and start to like feel a bit more comfortable settling in life here. It's been tough sort of having a lot of things up in the air and not really being certain if I could sort of commit to like furnishing an apartment as an example, or like just sort of investing in life here. So that's good news. Also, like I said, super excited to be going down to DJ at this radio station at Refuge Worldwide today. I'll share the link down below so you guys can check out the set. And I plan on recording in there. We'll see like how tight of a space it is, but hopefully I can get some footage. So let's go. Okay, so as you can see here, I was able to get some incredible footage of the DJ booth, but unfortunately all the songs that I played, they violate the copyright rules and regulations on YouTube. So unfortunately, I'm not able to play the audio, but I had an incredible experience. This entire week, I was focused on trying to put myself in uncomfortable creative positions and share things creatively a bit more before they are quote unquote ready. I've been going back and studying a lot of Virgil Abloh's work, his processes, how he talked about his design process. And he has this 3% rule of shipping things. I think it's at 3%. And I wanted to make sure that I could do that with music and get out there and be nervous, but still ship an amazing show. All right, fam. We got a spicy workout today. Just now getting to the track. Feeling a little tired. The body's like definitely still adjusting to training. But yeah, I had like a nice easy recovery day yesterday. Just like did like a low-key 30-minute bike and then sauna. So the muscle should be good. But this is like one of those workouts on the schedule where you're like, fuck, coach is wilding. But just gotta like give it a nice long warm up and then focus on each rep. So excited to run fast today though. It's beautiful out here in Berlin. I found this cool track near me now. It's perfect. And so yeah, we about to get busy. Whew. I'm not gonna front y'all, that was fucking gnarly. I remember right after I finished the intro, I realized I never told you what the workout was. It was 6x at half marathon pace with a minute recovery, and then a 2-minute full recovery, and then I did 8x400 at 10K pace with 45-second recovery. And I am in the dirt, y'all. That was rough. But felt strong. I was able to finish everything. It was just like I was on the line the whole time, which, you know, doesn't feel good. It was a fun workout though. The track was alive. I mean, I don't know, there were like 50 people out there, maybe 100 people. Just like some people in the infield, some people riding bikes and rollerblading, a bunch of folks on the track. It was good energy. And yeah, it was just nice to like, yeah, have like a fast session where I knew my body could handle it, but it was also like definitely like a challenge. I had to stay locked in on every rep because yeah, it was just like I had to break it down sometimes into like hundreds just to like keep focused and get through. It was fun. It was all good. So I got these new Adidas Evo SL shoes last week or maybe early this week. Essentially, it's a daily trainer, but it's got light strike foam, which
for the non-runners out there, all that means is like it's one of their high-end sort of foams. It's pretty responsive. It was crazy snappy. It was like really fun to run in, really easy to get up to pace. There's no carbon in the shoe, so you're still working harder than I think. Well, I think you're working like the appropriate amount of time you should. Sometimes like the carbon shoes, they're like training wheels a bit. Like, so yeah, it's nice to like really have like a low profile shoe and you can sort of feel the ground under you. So can't not wait to get home, have a burger, some fries, and start to recover. I think the next few days are pretty relaxed. I'll catch y'all later. Now, while you're enjoying this B-roll of me researching, I wanted to share a little bit more about the title of this video. So you may have or may not have heard of designers talk about the 3% rule. Virgil Abloh coined it. And just changing just 3% of an existing thing, a sneaker, a chair, a software flow, a process, and with the right story, it can read as something completely new. Why does this matter for founders and creators like us? Because most of what slows a project down is an invention. It can be perfectionism. We chase the last 97%. The polish no one asked for, instead of shipping the tiny shift that actually moves the work forward. In this case, done really is better than perfect. So here's how I'm using this rule this week. 97% of this vlog is raw, day in the life footage, running, researching, coffee. But I tried to add 3% overlay. Some new KPIs, some BTS, same scenes, but a new layer of value. This rule isn't permission to copy. It's a reminder that progress hides in micro moves. Find your next 3% tweak and hit publish. And spend the saved energy on the story you'll tell once it's out in the world. What it do to my noodles? It's Saturday this week, and we've had quite a busy week so far, and wasn't able to get as much footage as I wanted to this week just because I was in some confidential private spaces that I couldn't really record, but also the majority of the work that I was doing this week was sort of just me reading research papers. And so I got some B-roll, but it's not terribly exciting. And wanted to just also sort of check in and describe where I am in the process of starting this new business. And for the time being, I'm gonna hold off on sharing sort of more granular details about the industry, the problem that I'm solving, and what a potential solution looks like. I think that's best until we come out of stealth and we can actually sort of reveal like something that's finished and people will be able to use the product and all these sorts of things. And then at that point, we'll be happy to sort of go into detail about the problem. But until that's finished and out into the world, I want to hold off on sort of explaining that for just like any potential competitors that may be watching, or it's just like sometimes putting the cart before the horse when I think founders are announcing like what a solution might be before they really understand the problem well. And so like for me, I'm very much in the research phase and I have an idea of what the solution will be. I know what the sort of macro problem is and why there are tailwinds and why there should be some innovation in this space. But what I don't know is what the market is really expecting, what they're sort of demanding fully. how customers and users will respond to different sorts of solutions that we put in front of them. And so there's a bit more research that needs to be done before I feel confident in actually talking about what the solution is. But I think it's still important to share the journey here, because although it might be a bit nebulous and vague on details and certain points, like the process is still something that I think is approachable, and I think that y'all will be able to understand well. And so, like I said, this week was busy. I had the radio show earlier this week, which was so much fun, but it was like a whole new thing. Monday, Tuesday, I was prepping for that, and then had a bunch of in-person meetings with potential team members, managing director of my partner, the company that I'm partnering with on this venture, as well as some other former entrepreneurs in Berlin that have built businesses in the EU that were just offering some advice and things to consider when building in the EU versus Silicon Valley. And yeah, we'll definitely synthesize all those learnings and share those a little bit later in the video. But this week was really spent on the first step of my process, which is becoming a domain expert in whatever the industry is that I'm building in. And previously that's been in healthcare and in the music industry. Music was something that was second nature, really. Like, it's been a huge part of my life. As I think I've mentioned, I interned at Sony while in college and been a musician for a long time, recorded some music with some friends. And so I understood that industry and that problem really well. Healthcare was different because it's just a lot of information to consume. It's a complex system, and there are many varying regulations from state to state, from industry to industry, from practitioner to practitioner. And these sorts of things just take a lot of time to understand. And maybe now with the advent of AI, it's a bit different, but I doubt it, because you still, like, it doesn't matter if you have a Cliff Note version of what HIPAA compliance is or other sorts of regulations around launching a business in healthcare in the United States. You still need to understand all the nuances, because by not going deep and understanding these different nuances, that presents significant risk for you, the individual, but also just for validating your idea. And so it's really in any founder's interest to leverage AI tools to synthesize these complex ideas and assume that that's going to allow you to get to the level of expertise that you need to be a domain expert, but really understand where there are points of leverage in the industry and the system that you're building in, as well as just protect yourself from downsides of risk exposure for similarly whatever industry or system that you're building in. I know that sounds very, very vague and nebulous, but essentially the TLDR is like, you're trying to find, as an entrepreneur, as a business, as a startup, you're trying to find points in the system that you can leverage to extract value. And I think there's risk in relying on AI tools to identify those points of risk, unless they're sort of obvious, or you're prompting the AI in a very specific way to look for a very specific thing. That may work, but for me, it's always worked better. There is no, I was operating in times before the invention of AI, or at least the sort of AI that's the quality that it is now. But it's always been better just to use my brain to download all this information by reading as much as possible and then finding the through line myself and trying to understand what the real pain points are, what the opportunity is, and to the best of my ability, what are points of leverage, but also what are some hurdles and constraints to look out for. And so that's where I am with this current business. And it's just like a lot of reading. It's a lot of staring at my screen. It's a lot of, like I said, just reading and note-taking. And at certain points, I start to synthesize the information that I'm learning, and I'll share some of the things that I look for when I am starting to extract certain themes or trends that I'm noticing, or connect with the real world, or connect with the sort of zeitgeist at the moment, and things that just may be interesting to lean on. And I'll do that in a later video and share those this week for sure. But it's quite boring. It's just like, it's just me staring at a screen or reading books. At a certain point, when I feel confident with what I've learned, then I start to shift my gaze outward a bit and start to go have conversations with other domain experts in the space, and just start to talk through what I've learned and my idea and get a sense of what their feedback is. And this is probably the most important part of my process, because it helps me learn so much about how to tell the story about what I'm building, if the problem is something that is interesting to someone that's in the domain, someone that's out of the domain, what types of questions consistently come up, as well as just like generally how good of a job I do at explaining the problem. And these are all things that never really change. Like, over the entire life cycle of a business, you're always going to need to pitch and tell the story, and it's going to need to change from whether you're talking to a grandparent, to whether you're talking to an investor, to whether you're talking to a journalist at a publication, to whether you're talking to a potential partner. And you have to understand the type of language to use, as well as the cadence to speak in, the sort of level of language to use, whether it's at a sort of like 6th grade level or is it like a PhD level, these sorts of things. Additionally, you always need to be refining your pitch based off of the types of questions that you recognize are going to come up, because there tends to be consistency in the type of questions that people will ask. And these are always things that, if like they're trends, you might as well just add them to your story if it fits and doesn't sort of expand your elevator pitch by minutes. If it's like an investor or a potential partner, you just add these things to a deck or an appendix. But if it's like a grandparent or your parent or something, then you can just sort of explain the problem and then go into some of the questions that they might ask already, and so then you can actually get to a point where you have a conversation. And like I said, it's immensely helpful for me to get to that point extremely early in my process, because it helps me learn, it helps me just talk through the problem and understand what aspects of what I've learned are really landing well with the audience or whoever I'm talking to, which is critical for just like communication around complex ideas. But it's also interesting because I then understand what parts of the problem that I'm solving or the solution that I'm solving are really resonating with this particular individual. And then lastly, like, I understand the feedback. Like, I get feedback in a micro sense. Like, I understand like what piqued their interest as an individual in my story, but also over 5, 10, 15, 20 conversations, I understand what sorts of points in my story really resonate with people. And so like this qualitative research synthesis starts to emerge, because you have conversations and you get to emotionally see what's piquing someone's interest, but you also get to understand like intellectually what's piquing their interest as well, which is like, it's just gold for me. It's always worked extremely well in just understanding what I've learned, but also understanding how I communicate the business every next time. And so that's where I am right now. Really, really excited about what I'm building. Like, I think it's a huge opportunity, and can't wait to get to a point where I can like share a little bit more. But that'll be it for today, and we'll check in with you later. Peace.